Beyond the London Red Bus and beyond the trees is Nelson's Column, the tallest Corinthian column in the world, made with granite from Fogging Tor in Devon. Nelson himself, sculptured by E.H. Bailey. Nelson's Column, commanding and passionately patriotic. To me, Nelson is courage, valour, and even deliverance, defending our freedom and honour to the end. Nelson is facing and looking towards his ship, HMS Victory, docked at Portsmouth on the south coast. 145 feet high is the column, and Nelson at the top is another 17 feet more. This is the Battle of the Nile plaque. Nelson said of himself before the Battle of the Nile, which he won, he said, "Before this time tomorrow, I shall have gained a peerage or Westminster Abbey." In fact, Horatio Nelson is buried in the crypt of St. Paul's Cathedral, and he did become Lord Nelson. Okay, this plaque on Nelson's Column must be the one for the Battle of Trafalgar, 1805, which was victorious, but Nelson was shot by a sniper and eventually died. Spare a thought for all the other sailors who either died or were injured alongside Horatio Nelson. Admiral Beatty of the Navy. Another Admiral of the Navy, Admiral Jellicoe. The National Gallery first opened its doors in the year 1824. George Washington, one of the founding fathers of the United States. The Springbok marking South Africa House. That man there on South Africa House, it's in the southeast corner of Trafalgar Square, is Bartholomew Diaz. He was the first European navigator to sail around the southern tip of South Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, in the year 1488. A man of courage, and so was his crew. This is a statue of Major General Sir Henry Havelock, born in 1795. This statue is taken from a photograph. He marched 120 miles in 9 days during the Indian Mutiny of 1857 to relieve Cawnpore and then Lucknow, before then dying the following morning. No guessing that this is Canada House, Trafalgar Square. This police lantern in the southeast corner of Trafalgar Square. A metropolitan police lookout post. In the past, a policeman would stand in there when there was a demonstration here at Trafalgar Square. If it got out of hand, he'd call the police station for reinforcements. This is a statue of Charles I. It is the oldest made statue in Trafalgar Square. It was made in the year 1633. After the Civil War, which the parliamentarians won and Charles I royalists lost, the statue was taken down and it was to be broken up and melted down by a metalsmith, but he hid the statue. He pretended to break it down by selling cutlery made of bronze, pretending it was from the statue. But once Charles II was restored to the throne, the statue was given by the metalsmith to Charles II, and so we have the statue here today, the oldest statue in Trafalgar Square. And after looking at Charles I statue, gonna walk along there behind him, and the King Charles I statue occupies the place of Eleanor's cross, the 12th cross, which was put here just before her body was taken to Westminster, where all road distances to London are measured. Okay, so from Trafalgar Square we can go through Admiralty Arch, which is looking just all covered because it's going through restoration, and that leads to the Mall, and then Buckingham Palace, just to see some of Queen Victoria's statue just before Buckingham Palace. I'm just going to walk down Spring Gardens just by Admiralty Arch, because I'm sure on top of the building there is the Admiralty building, and that is where they first introduced the shutter signal system. In a line, messages went from here all the way to Portsmouth on the coast for the Navy. And I'm sure on top of the building down there, above the green dome, that's where the shutter signalling system was first introduced. From going through Admiralty Arch, gonna walk down the Mall all the way to Buckingham Palace. From Buckingham Palace, gonna come through St James's Park, cross over Horse Guards Road, walk through Horse Guards Parade into Whitehall, do a left, and then cross over and turn right into Great Scotland Yard, turn right Scotland Place, make our way to Whitehall Court, and then at Horse Guards Avenue turn right, then left back into Whitehall, and have a look at Banqueting House. Now I'm the other side of Admiralty Arch. The famous red road called the Mall, leading down there to Buckingham Palace. Now from here it does look like the Duke of York is standing on top of that building on the roof, but he's not, he's beyond there. Captain James Cook, famous explorer and navigator of the 18th century. This ivy covered citadel by Horse Guards, built in 1940-1941 for the Admiralty, and it's as large underground as what one can see above ground, made to be bomb-proof and secret intelligent hack-proof. Boston Ivy. And this is one of the saddest memorials in London, the Police Memorial. Over there is a book of remembrance of all those who have died on duty. From this Police Remembrance book, on the 26th of March 1907, Police Constable George William Leaf, aged 24, North Eastern Railway Police, wounded on the 14th of March by an assailant who struck him in the face with an umbrella, which caused medical complications from which he died. How sad. You could continue down the Mall, where that path leads in between the trees, to Buckingham Palace. And then you could do a U-turn and come back up this way along the path, or even through St James's Path, to rejoin Horse Guards Road and continue this walk. So there we are, Buckingham Palace. Called Buckingham Palace because the Duke of Buckingham had the first house built here, the original house, in 1703. George III was the first royal to acquire the house. During the 19th century, the architect John Nash added the 3 extra wings to make the home into a palace. The reason that we have Queen Victoria's statue outside Buckingham Palace is because she was the first royal to make the palace a royal family home. This is Duck Island Cottage, and the bird keeper of the park used to live here. This very large building in Horse Guards Road is His Majesty's Treasury. And right to the side of it, under the steps here, is the Cabinet War Rooms. It's now called Churchill War Rooms, obviously famous name. So that's where during the Second World War operations were planned. Statue there is Field Marshal the Earl Kitchener, and behind him, behind that wall, is the gardens to number 10 and 11 Downing Street. Horse Guards Parade. This is where Troop in the Colour is done, and other royal events going back to King Henry VIII's time, when jousting tournaments were held here. The markings on the ceiling there are parish boundary markers. SFM, St Martin's in the Field, and St MW, St Margaret's, Westminster. Here at Horse Guards, up there on the clock, 2 o'clock as a black mark to show that it was at 2 p.m. that King Charles I was executed. So that is the old Navy office where I was talking about earlier, the first of, I believe it's 22 signalling posts, optical signalling posts from here down to Portsmouth. The first one after here was on the roof of the Army Hospital, which is in Chelsea. Says here in the pavement for this memorial, Royal Tank Regiment Memorial Statue. This memorial statue depicts the crew of a World War II Comet tank which was issued to the Royal Tank Regiment in 1945. The Comet had a crew of 5, commander, gunner, loader, whole machine gunner and driver. We're here in Whitehall Court, and here in Whitehall Court at number 3 is the Farmers Club. So if you're a farmer and you come to London, you can go there, have some lunch This very nice monument is to the Gurkhas. This is the Ministry of Defence, huge building in Horse Guards Avenue. We're going to turn right back into Whitehall, turn left to walk down to look at the cenotaph. That there is Banqueting House, part of Whitehall Palace, which escaped the fire. On a cold 30th January 1649, after losing the Civil War between his royalists to the parliamentarians, led by Oliver Cromwell, on a scaffold tower, King Charles I was beheaded with one clean, decisive chop. Witnesses of the huge crowd of spectators said afterwards, "Such a groan by the thousands then present as I never heard before, and desire I may never hear again." After making our way down Whitehall and looking at the cenotaph, at some point we'll do a U-turn, do a right along Richmond Terrace, and then we'll enter Whitehall Gardens. And we'll stay with Whitehall Gardens all the way to the Embankment station, where we'll end the walk. That street over there is Downing Street. Number 10 has been the official residence of the Prime Minister since Robert Walpole lived here at number 10 Downing Street in the year 1732. The Chancellor of the Exchequer lives next door at number 11. Government ministers attend cabinet meetings almost every week in the cabinet room of number 10. The civil servants who service these meetings work in the cabinet office on the corner here of Downing Street. This is the cenotaph, the nation's memorial to our war dead. Approximately 1 million British and Commonwealth military were killed during the First World War action. And this is their memorial. The wording reads, "The Glorious Dead." The First World War ended at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November 1918. And ever since then, on the Sunday closest to the 11th of November at 11 a.m. each year, thousands gather here each year to remember the dead who gave their lives for their country. Cenotaph is a Greek word meaning empty tomb. Okay, after visiting the cenotaph, do a U-turn and take this path, which is facing directly to the London Eye. And then when you get to the end of the path, on the right will be New Scotland Yard. Facing us is the River Thames, and the left Whitehall Gardens. This is Robert Peel, and he said, "The police are the public and the public are the police." The Whitehall section of the gardens was the last to be laid out after a dispute with the Office of Woods and Forests, who administered Crown lands. Mr. W.H. Smith MP campaigned in Parliament for it to be a public garden and had the pleasure of formally opening it in 1875. This huge building, which is now the Ministry of Defence, was once the Royal Air Force headquarters. And before that, stood here was the Whitehall Palace, which in its day was the largest palace in the whole of Europe. This is a monument for those who served in the Chindit Special Force, who fought against the Japanese in Burma in the years 1943 and 1944. They operated under the most arduous and dangerous conditions behind Japanese lines. The Chindit badge, portraying a chintz, a mythical beast, guardian of Burmese temples, from which was derived the name Chindits, their motto being "the boldest measures are the safest." 4 of those who served in the force received the Victoria Cross. At this next monument it says, "With gratitude for the sacrifice made by the British Armed Forces in defence of freedom and democracy in the Republic of Korea." This is Charles Portal, who fought his war in the great Anglo-American conferences and in Whitehall. And here is Portal looking skywards, because he was in charge and made all the strategic decisions for the RAF and helped architect the victory in the Second World War. These are the Queen Mary's Steps, which Christopher Wren designed in 1691. And the Queen Mary's Steps and Banquet House are the only parts of the old Whitehall Palace that remain. Did I already mention that working in the Whitehall Palace was a maid, and one of her duties was to wash and dry the bed linen, and while she was drying the bed linen, she was drying it too close to the brazier heater for the bed chamber, and the bed linen caught alight, and from that the whole Whitehall Palace burnt down, apart from Banqueting House. Okay, after looking at Queen Mary's Steps in Whitehall Gardens, going to cross over Horse Guards Avenue and carry on walking through Embankment Gardens to Embankment Station. It's William Tyndale. Now over there is William Tyndale, born in 1484. He translated the New Testament into English. He had to flee England so he could complete his translation while living in Hamburg and Cologne, where Tyndale started printing the New Testament in the year 1525. Sadly, he was burned at the stake in Holland. Okay, we're finishing in Embankment Gardens and we're going to walk around and walk under Embankment Place to end the walk at Embankment Station. Through there. So this is the Embankment taxi shelter, made for taxi drivers to have a drink and something to eat. Anyone now can buy something for a takeaway, as you can see there, but still only taxi drivers themselves can go inside. Embankment Station, where the walk ends. The first ever street in London to be lit by electricity was right here, the Embankment. And on this side it says this obelisk, quarried at Syene, was erected on Heliopolis by the pharaoh Thosmis the third. Just butchered his name. No guessing, this is Trafalgar House, Canada. Beautiful colour. Pigeon. Very rare colour.